Hello, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. So, today we're going to talk about self-love through solo travel. And first, I just want to introduce myself to you. My name's Alessia. I'm from Long Island, New York, and I'm the owner of One Girl Travel, which is a solo travel focused life coaching business. I'm a certified Martha Beck life coach and a certified travel coach. I coach clients one-on-one, I have monthly membership, and host group trips for women. And today I'm here to share the impact that solo travel has had on my life and how I developed a deep sense of self-love through the act of traveling by myself. So, a little history about me is that I began solo traveling in 2012. I'd recently gotten out of my first long-term adult relationship, which happened to be mentally abusive. When the relationship ended, I didn't know what to do with myself. I felt broken and lost, and I didn't know who I was anymore. I needed to do something that was completely outside my comfort zone in order to rediscover myself. And that's when I decided to go on my first ever solo trip. So back then, the thing that made me the most comfortable was doing things by myself. So I was very shy and timid, and I lacked self-confidence. I never wanted to stand out. And then I decided to go on my first solo trip to Florida, which was a place I felt familiar with. And everything shifted for me. From the moment I got on that plane for the trip, I sat down next to a stranger, and he turned out to be a solo traveler. And I had never spoke to anybody on a plane before, but him and I chatted the entire flight, and he shared photos of all his trips and his stories. And I just felt so guided by the universe that I was on the right track. And it was so powerful. Since that first trip to Florida in 2012, I have continued to travel solo. I've been on dozens of cruises. I've raced a yacht in the Caribbean. I went to Europe for the first time. I celebrated the New Year in Scotland, and I had my first professional photo shoot in Paris. I've hiked glaciers in Alaska and much more, and I did it all by myself. I included these photos to give you a visual of my transformation throughout the years of my confidence and my self-love journey. This first photo on the fishing boat was my excursion in Florida. I became friends with these two British guys, and I asked one of them to take a photo of me. And you can see in my body, I have a smile on my face, but I'm clenched up. I'm really uncomfortable, but I'm doing it. The second photo was on my first ever cruise. Again, I'm solo, I'm by myself. I have a smile on my face, but I'm still not feeling that comfortable. These next photos, I started to feel more comfortable and allowed myself to be seen and try new things. So here I am steering a yacht racing boat. My first trip to Europe was by myself. And then the most special trip for me was checking off my bucket list item of visiting Scotland. With each trip I took, I learned more about myself. I began to realize how strong I was and what I was capable of. I discovered that I enjoyed standing out and allowing myself to be seen. And eventually, it brought me to where I am in my life now. I'm a confident woman who's taking a chance on myself and my dreams. A woman that enjoys having fun and meeting new people. A woman who doesn't care about what other people think of me and lives my life unapologetically. And a woman who celebrates life and loves herself unconditionally. I now see how owning our story and loving ourselves through that process is the bravest thing that we will ever do. That's by Brené Brown, and I feel like that's such a powerful statement. Next, I want to give you a self-love check-in. I want to see how you're gauging your self-love currently, with 1 being the lowest, or I'm sorry, 0 being the lowest and 10 being the highest. How do you feel that your self-love relates to this scale? And just throw it in the chat. I can see your numbers on there. For me, when I started, I was probably at like a 2. Oh, a 10. I love that. We're at 9. I'm loving this. 7, 8, 7. That's amazing. And hopefully, if you do have a lower number, that by the end of this chat, you will feel more confident with stepping outside your comfort zone and developing that self-love for yourself. How solo travel changed the way I loved myself. Before I began my solo travel journey, my mind was flooded with thoughts that did not serve me. Thoughts like, I'm not worthy, I'm not pretty enough, I'm too big, I'm too scared to do the things by myself. I'll love myself when I'm thinner. Only rich people can have a life of travel. I'm not deserving of love. What will other people think of me? I don't want to stand out because I don't want to be judged. And type a 1 in the chat if you can relate to any of these thoughts. As you can see, these thoughts are not kind words, and they held me back from doing the things that I wanted to do. I thought I was keeping myself safe by having these thoughts, and all it did was just keep me stuck. But thankfully, thanks to solo travel, they've changed. Self-love and solo travel. When you're solo traveling, you are entirely reliant on yourself. You're responsible for things like your safety, your schedule, your itinerary, navigation, enjoyment, wellness, and every other aspect of that experience. When you're solo traveling, you're going to be alone with your thoughts. And that's when it's up to you to choose the thoughts that are going to serve you. Solo travel makes you address the things that you might have been avoiding, and it forces you to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And when you begin to step inside that discomfort, that's when the growth happens for you. Solo travel has taught me so many lessons over the years, such as how to advocate for myself, learn my likes and dislikes, practice being my future self, learn to be my biggest cheerleader, speak kindly to myself, know that I'm capable of doing hard things, and understanding that I am worthy. But the greatest lesson of all of these was how to truly love myself as I am right now, not 20 pounds less from now, not $1 million more than now, right now, exactly how I am. And that, my friends, is one of the most powerful and freeing experience I've ever had. And now, because of all these lessons that I've learned from solo traveling, how I think about myself has significantly changed. Now my thoughts are, I am worthy. I am beautiful. My body is strong. I love doing things by myself. I love my curves. I'm deserving of love. I am abundant. I'm sexy. I don't care what people think of me. My life is amazing. I love myself. And as you can see, now my thoughts serve me. They're constantly reminding me of how wonderful I am. And having these thoughts available to me is what keeps pushing me forward and pushing my boundaries and continue to grow. So what does it mean to have self-love? In the chat box, type in what comes to mind when you imagine a woman who has self-love. So for me, I thought women specifically who had self-love had confidence, charm, they're put together, they're social. Yeah, confidence is a big one. Self-love is a state of appreciation for yourself, and it grows from actions that support every aspect of your growth. Self-love is taking action on your dreams. Self-love is knowing that when you put your needs first, you get to serve others. And I love the idea of the oxygen mask on the plane. You have to put your own mask on first and then help others. And self-love is listening to your body and soul and giving it what it needs. When you have self-love, you have the freedom to do anything you desire because you don't need reassurance from anybody besides yourself. And self-love does not happen overnight. It's a journey. So why do we struggle with self-love? Self-love is a never-ending journey. There's no finish line where you can just declare self-love and then never have to put any more effort into it. You are worth the effort. Self-love is ever evolving, and it's constantly going to change with each phase of your life. Creating and accepting self-love means accepting every aspect of yourself, including the good and the bad. And it means accepting parts of yourself that you might not be happy with right now, such as your wealth, your health, relationships, home, or job. How do you develop this self-love through solo travel? So when you're solo traveling and you're alone with your own thoughts, those thoughts will make or break your experience. And I learned that early on in my solo travel journey. Our minds are going to automatically go through the worst case scenarios or negative thoughts, and they're not going to help you. They might ruin your experience. To avoid this, you must learn to take control of your thoughts and point them in the direction that's going to benefit you. Earlier, I shared how my thoughts have shifted from negative thoughts and that helped me, my negative thoughts that held me back, and then how they shifted to better thoughts that served me and helped drive me forward. So to create those new thoughts for yourself, you need to ask yourself, is this thought true? And be real with yourself. dig deep because most likely you're going to realize that you're just being hard on yourself. For example, if you have the thoughts, I'm so stupid, I don't know what I'm doing. And honestly, I had that thought many times in the beginning. Or I'm so lame, nobody wants to be my friend. Or everybody's staring at me eating alone, I'm so embarrassed. Had that thought so many times. Those thoughts are not serving you, and you need to shift them into a more positive thought that you can actually believe. This new thought that doesn't have to be far-fetched, it just needs to be true and be more supportive of you. So instead, try, I am not stupid. This is my first time traveling and I'm learning. You're giving yourself that grace with this new thought. Or, of course, people want to be my friend. Why wouldn't they? I just need to make an effort to meet people. And if they don't want to be my friend, that's their loss. And think about how powerful that statement is. It's their loss if they don't want to interact with you. But you're offering yourself to them to see if maybe they want to be friends with you. It's no big deal. Or if people stare at me while I'm dining by myself, that's not my business. I am proud of myself for being confident enough to enjoy a fabulous meal at a restaurant alone. Shifting your thoughts to the ones that better serve you are going to allow you to relax and feel more confident, and eventually you'll start to believe those thoughts. Being comfortable, being uncomfortable. Another way that you can learn self-love through solo travel is to embrace discomfort. For me, it was eating alone. When I first started eating alone at restaurants, I was not comfortable at all. And honestly, eating alone felt like the scariest aspect of solo travel. I dreaded it. But I knew if I wanted to fully immerse myself in the culture and the destination, I needed to overcome this fear because I didn't want to sit in my room eating room service every day. So even though I was scared, I would still book that reservation. I would get dressed up, and I would like get dressed up. I'd put like gowns on. I'll talk more about that soon. And I'd sit at the table. And not only would I sit at the table, I would challenge myself to not touch my phone and I would not be distracted. I wanted to make sure that I sat in the discomfort and paid attention to how I felt. And I like to think of this as an experiment and think about, why do I feel uncomfortable in this moment? What thoughts am I having? What's a worst case scenario? How can I make this more enjoyable for me? Eventually, the discomfort decreased and I became more comfortable dining alone. And now I'll confidently take myself into any restaurant at any time and go for a meal. And it is so liberating. And the same goes for all aspects of solo travel. You may feel uncomfortable approaching a new person, or you might not feel comfortable wandering the streets by yourself. But if you let that fear prevent you from doing these things, you will never have the full experience, nor will you grow. You must embrace the discomfort, especially if this is something that you want bad enough for yourself. Next is meet your future self. And I know I mentioned I would get dressed up in gowns. This is why I embodied my future self and how I felt confident doing so. So a big way for me personally to gain self-love through solo travel was embodying my future self. I'd embody my future self, and it was my favorite way of feeling confident while solo traveling. When traveling alone to a new destination, you're going to quickly realize that you don't know anybody and nobody knows you. And you do not have to worry about being judged because they are strangers. So I would practice embodying my future self when I was solo traveling, because my future self at the time was extremely confident. She was bold and she was glamorous. So whenever I would feel unsure of myself, I would pull strength from my future self and act like her. So some ways you can begin embracing your future self are dressing in what makes you feel powerful and just strutting down the street and feeling confident. If you want to interact with others, go up to some people and just start a conversation. Like I said, it's their loss if they don't want to talk to you. And in a restaurant, if that you want to go and check out, go and book a reservation. Speak up for yourself with where you want to be sat, because some restaurants like to sit solo travelers in the back by the bathroom and the worst table possible. Advocate for yourself. Practice speaking up for yourself and just go and enjoy a night out alone. And similar to the phrase, fake it until you make it, I had to embrace my future self to become my future self. And by embodying your future self while on a solo trip, you will feel more comfortable being her. And eventually you're going to implement those traits into your daily life after the trip's over. And before you know it, you're going to realize that you are your future self now. And then you get to create a new future self and keep going. So before you can actually begin pulling strength from your future self, you need to learn who she is. So I know lunch is coming up right after my talk. So take some time for yourself and just sit in a quiet room, just relax, get a notebook, and envision yourself 5 to 10 years from now. And allow yourself to be as creative as you'd like and act as if there are absolutely no limits on any aspect of your life. Let it be a fantasy. Then imagine yourself in your future and pay attention to all of her traits, such as what does she look like? What's her energy like? What is she wearing? What's her occupation if she has one? Where does she live? What does she enjoy? How does she feel about herself? How does she spend her days? And how does she show up in the world? Write down everything that you can that describes your future self and pay attention to the attributes that you can begin to embody in your life now. And as you challenge yourself with solo traveling or anything that extends you outside of your comfort zone, pretend that you're her now. And eventually you'll realize that you have become her. Become your number one fan. Another way to develop self-love through solo travel is becoming your own biggest fan. It is essential for you to realize how far you've come, how brave you are for going on a trip by yourself. Celebrate all the things that you've accomplished and recognize all the growth that you've achieved. When you finally navigate that new city, celebrate it. Tell yourself how proud and impressive you are. And don't forget to show yourself grace while you're doing the things that don't feel comfortable to you. Remind yourself that you're doing something new and how brave you are for doing it. And you also need to have your own back. You are responsible for your own happiness, and you should be the person that cares the most about yourself and your desires. When you're solo traveling, you learn to advocate for yourself and your needs, and that's going to translate into every aspect of your life. Now I want to introduce you to the solo travel lifestyle. I equipped you with some of the tools that I've developed through self-love through solo travel. So the solo travel lifestyle is how I like to describe talking too fast because I get very excited about this topic. This solo travel lifestyle is how I like to describe living a freedom-based life about what you've learned about yourself when solo traveling. So perhaps solo travel isn't something for you. Maybe you have no desire to travel. Maybe you don't have unlimited vacation time or the resources to travel, and that's totally fine. The good news is everything I discussed today can be implemented into your everyday life, and you do not need to leave the country to do so. Although you don't need to physically go on a trip alone, you truly can just do all of this in your hometown on a weekend, this weekend, if you want to challenge yourself. But I do recommend a solo trip if you do desire because they're life-changing and they're really, really fun. But I want you to spend more time alone, whether it's going out to a meal, a movie, a concert, go for a walk, spend a night in a local hotel. That's something that I love doing. Just book a night for myself in a hotel. This alone time allows you to practice aspects of solo travel and step outside your comfort zone locally. So I just want to get a gauge for all of you. Type a Y in the chat if you are already comfortable doing things by yourself, and put an N in there if you are not comfortable at all doing things by yourself. Y, love seeing the Ys, yes. Okay, they have some N's, Y's, I love it. So this is for all of you because it is just a sequence of events. So if you are not comfortable doing things alone, begin by going out for a coffee and just sitting in a cafe with no distractions. Put the phone away, don't bring a book, sit there and pay attention to your thoughts. Just be present in the moment. Once you conquer that, try something else. Work your way up to lunch. And lunch is a great way to go by yourself because a lot of people during the week take themselves out for lunch on their lunch break. So it's easier. And then work your way up to dinner. And for those of you that are comfortable dining alone, try going to a concert or a party and then go to a tour or a meetup. You can meet new people. Maybe you want to make new friends. It's a great opportunity to put yourself out there and you're practicing aspects of solo travel locally. And then you can start with the traveling part. You can stay in a local hotel overnight for a weekend, take a longer local trip, then work your way up to a week-long trip, and then go international if you want. Go around the world, travel for a year, whatever you want to do, just start doing it. But know that there's no right or wrong way to solo travel. No matter what, if you're spending time by yourself and you're putting yourself outside your comfort zone, you are going to learn lessons and you are going to gain more confidence. And ultimately, you are going to grow your self love because you're putting that time into yourself and you are just expanding as a person. And it is so powerful. And it truly changed my life. And that's why I'm sharing this with you today. So thank you so much for being here. I am so thankful that I got to talk to you all today and share my passion for solo travel. As a thank you for all of you, I am sharing my 10 tips to begin solo traveling guide. And I would love to connect with you. I'm all over the internet, my website, onegirltravel.com. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook. I have a podcast. I have all the things, and I would love to talk to you more. So thank you so much. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, yeah. You can screenshot. I'll hold it up for a second. But this is so much fun. And if you have any questions for me, I'd love to hear them and answer them to get you started on your solo travel journey.